Hey everyone, so today we're going to be showing you the newly upgraded Anker Solix F3800 Plus. Now this brand new model packs some amazing features here in 2025, but in today's video we're going to go over all the new upgrades with this unit, show you how the solar input limit was upgraded, and also show you their brand new Anker Solix generator input adapter that allows you to charge with a 120 volt or 240 volt gas generator while this thing is outputting power through the L1430R ports or the TT30R port. So stick around to see how everything works, see what kind of limitations there are, and if you guys are interested in picking one of these up after watching this video, please check out the link down below in the description where it will be an affiliate link and I will receive a small commission if you use that link. And I do want to mention that Anker did send me this for testing and review. And if you haven't seen my original Anker Solix F3800 review on their older model, make sure you go check that out. It shows you tons of features, how that unit performed. And I hooked it up to my house through my generator input box and showed you guys how that thing ran on there. So go check out that video. A lot of the specs and features are going to be the same as far as performance goes. And I also recorded a video with that older unit connected to my house with a bunch of solar to see how long the unit with one expansion battery would run my house for. Now I haven't uploaded that video yet, but it's probably coming in the future, so stick around if you want to see that. Let's get into it. All right, so some of the main upgrades on this new F3800 Plus is that they now put a 120 volt 25 amp max TT30R port on here, so that's going to be great for powering RVs, and it still has the L1430R 25 amp max output port as well, and the 6 standard outlets. And just like the original unit, these 3 are UPS when you're charging with AC, and when you're charging with AC, these 3 do not work. The next major upgrade is you can now input 11 to 165 volts at 17 amps of solar input, and the 2 inputs are different now. It's not an XT60 port. If you guys know what that kind of adapter is called, let me know down below in the comments. They still have the home power port here, expansion battery port, but now they also have this new DC input port, and it kind of looks like an expansion battery port. However, it has little prongs here that will not allow you to plug an expansion battery into it. So I don't know what this port is exactly. I reached out to them and asked them, and they said it's going to be for some future accessories. So can't wait to see what they come out for that. All I know is, according to the manual, it's capable of 60 volt 120 amp max for that DC input port. All right guys, so now in this test we're going to hook up 5 solar panels. We have 3 400 watt panels here, and I have 2 600 watt panels over there. We're going to hook all these up to the Anker Solix F3800 and see what kind of input we can get. And what's awesome about the new F3800 Plus is you could put in 11 to 165 volts up to 17 amps. Now these all powers 400 watt panels output about 45 volts open circuit current, and these 600 watt all powers panels put out just over 57 volts of open circuit current. So I could put 2 of these in series together, which gives me right around 113 volts. If I went with 3, it would be too much. It would be over the 165 volt limit, so you can only do 2 of these in a series, or you could do 3 of these in a series, which gives you right around 130 volts of open circuit current. Now that's one thing you never want to go over is your input limit on the voltage, because that's when you can burn out your charge controller. So make sure you test it, make sure your positive and negative are correct, and make sure you're not over that 165 volt open circuit limit. And you're going to want to stay a little bit below that, because depending on what time of year it is in the summer, if the panels are hot, if they're cold, you might get a little bit higher than what the panels state for their open circuit current. So you want to leave a little bit of room for flexibility there. Now this time of year in the winter, the sun's pretty far away. It's not directly overhead, so I'm not going to get that much power out of the 2 600 watt panels because they're laying down flat versus angled up like this towards the sun. So in midsummer, I'd get a lot more output from these panels. But it's definitely nice now that they have 165 volt open circuit current, because you could pump way more wattage through a smaller wire into the unit. You don't have to have such a big gauge wire and have to get the amps way up like you had to in their original unit. And this time of year, with these 3 panels going into there this time of day, I'm getting around 950 watts. And I'm getting about 450 watts out of these 2 600 watt panels when they're ran in series to the unit, for a total of about 1400 watts into the Anker Solix F3800 Plus. So pretty good for this time of year. Additionally, I have 400 watt NERS V panels, which produce a little bit more output than these all powers panels. And I feel like they'd be a little bit better of a pair to wire in series into the F3800 Plus, because the open circuit current is a little bit lower. So I feel like I'd be able to wire 4 of them in series. However, I only have 2. So I can't test it out, but if I do end up getting 2 more and I test it and it works great, I'll put all the information down below and let you guys know how that works. And I'll put all the links down for all the panels and everything I talk about in this video. So if you're interested, please consider using those links, and it will help support the channel at no extra cost to you. And it helps me creating these videos. Thanks a lot, guys. And while you're charging with solar, you are able to output through the 240 volt sockets as well as the 120 volts. You can see right now I have 968 watts going out, and I have 1364 watts coming in to the Anker Solix F3800 Plus. Gotta love free energy, I know I do. All right, so now in this test, we're gonna try the generator input adapter with a 120 volt gas generator. This is a 3000 watt generator. We're gonna put power to this input adapter and see if we could charge this unit and output power from the receptacles on the side. But first, let's take it in the house and simulate using a 240 volt generator. What we're gonna do is we're gonna plug another Anker Solix, the original version, into the 240 volt output port and show you how that works, because I don't have a 240 volt gas generator. If you did, you would be able to plug this directly into a 240 volt gas generator, set your limit, and you will be able to recharge up to 3,300 watts for the unit itself, or up to 6,000 watts if you had the unit with expansion batteries connected. But let me show you that clip and then we'll get back to this test. All right, so one thing I noticed is when you go into the app, you could set your running watts of your generator and also the max recharging watts that you want your Anker Solix F3800 Plus to charge to. However, this does not limit the output of your generator. For example, whatever you're pulling through this, it does not pull it from the battery in this, it pulls it from the generator itself. So you don't want to overload your generator and don't want to pull too much current if you're running into your house and you're running on the generator input outlet. So we're going to go ahead and turn this Anker on. This is going to simulate a 240 volt generator because I don't have one, so I'm using that as my generator. And we're going to put power into this unit, but you're going to see here I have it set for 400 watts of running watts and 200 watts of max recharge watts. Turning that on now, and I have a blow dryer turned on, and this unit is outputting 900 watts. Even though I have the running watts set at 400 watts and max charging rate at 200, that generator is still outputting 900 watts. So we'll go ahead and bump the max recharge rate up to 400. Hit save. And now that's bumping up a little bit. It's at 973 watts. But you can see there that I have 926 watts coming in from the generator, even though I have the running watts set at 400. So like I said, if you're running off the generator into that generator port and running your house off the Anker Solix F3800, you're going to want to watch how many watts you pull from your house, because you will overload your generator pretty easily. That would have been nice if you could set the running watts of your generator and it would only put in as much watts as your generator would input, and then it would actually run off the unit's battery. Yeah, you might not get as much lifespan out of it, but that would have been pretty cool to be able to put, say, 800 watts into it from a very small generator and then output 6,000 watts from the Anker Solix F3800 Plus. Now, I don't know if this would be possible in the future, in a future update. That'd be pretty cool if it is, but let me know down in the comments what you think, if you think this would be a nice feature. Now, one thing to know when you're charging through the generator input port is that the standard 520R 120 volt ports on the side of the solar generator do not output power. However, you can output power from the 120 volt TT30R receptacle and the L1430R 240 volt receptacle. So you can use the two big receptacles on the side, and you can use an adapter to adapt it down to 520R receptacles like I have here. I'll put a link down below for that if that's something you're interested in. And I also noticed when you run your generator, when you fire it up, it shuts those ports off on the Anker Solix F3800 Plus. But when your generator shuts off, it does automatically revert over to the 3800. Okay. I didn't really see any delay in that when I tested it. Additionally, something that's really nice, when you're charging with AC, you can see I have AC plugged in right here. I'm charging it from another Anker Solix F3800 at 230 some watts of input. You do have output on the TT30R outlet, but not on the 240. Like I said, you can get an adapter here, plug it right into this TT30R output port, and then plug all your standard equipment into that if needed. But that's a nice feature if you're running an RV. However, same thing if you run a load, it's going to pull the power from your generator and not from this, so you can't overload your generator if you're running stuff off of this port while you're charging through AC. So keep that in mind. You just always want to have your load that you're running lower than what your generator outputs, no matter which way you're charging, through the generator output port or through AC on the side. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to crank this thing up and we're going to see what the max wattage we could put in from a 240 volt generator into this unit would be. So I'm going to go into the app here, into the generator input, go to the running watts, set that to the max of 6,000 watts, hit save, go to max recharge, and we're going to crank this up as high as it will go, which is going to be 3,300 watts without the expansion battery connected. Right now I do not have the expansion battery connected. I do have 2 solar panels connected. I'm getting 473 watts in to the F3800 Plus with solar through the solar input ports. Now we're going to go ahead and turn on the 240 volt. Now this is the original F3800, and this is going to simulate that 240 volt gas generator because I don't have one. So we're putting 240 volts in from this into there. It just kicked on, and we'll see what kind of recharge rate we're getting when it's set to 3,300 watts. 3,300, well now 3,308 watts of input into the unit from a 240 volt generator with no expansion battery connected. And you can see that here in the app. It shows 2,823 watts coming in. Well, actually, we have 3,324 watts coming in according to that unit, and around 2,800 and some according to the generator input, because we're getting 2,835 watts from the 240 volt generator, and then we're getting another 484 watts or so from the solar input. So just over 3,300 watts total between the generator and the solar. So you're going to be capped at 3,300 watts when charging from solar and from a gas generator, but it's going to use that solar input first, then it'll supply the rest of the energy from your gas generator, which is really nice. I'd rather gain solar energy than use energy from an additional source. So awesome there. Now let's unplug the solar and see if we can get 3,300 watts in just from the generator itself. All right, now I got the solar disconnected and we're still getting almost 3,300 watts, 3,290, and it's showing 3,313 watts, 3,312 coming from this F3800, which is simulating a 240 volt gas generator connected into the generator adapter port. So very awesome that you could charge up to 3,300 watts from a gas generator while this thing is running. And you can, like I said, use the 2 bigger ports on the side. However, you cannot use the smaller 120 volt ports on the side when you're charging from a 240 volt gas generator. Now let's hook up the expansion battery and see if we can get 6,000 watts into this. All right, now I was just getting ready to unhook this and I noticed it dropped to around 2,000 watts. Now I still have everything turned up to 3,300 watts in the app, and it's outputting just over 2,000 watts from this one into this one now, so I'm not quite sure why it dropped. It's only sitting at 72%, so I'm not quite sure why it went down from 3,000 watts, but still pretty amazing that you can charge from a gas generator while you're outputting power from these ports. So right before I hooked it up, I noticed there's a new update for this, so I have it updating now. You can see 46%. Very easy to update this through the app. When you see there's an update, you just hit update and wait for it to reach 100%. So we'll see if this changes anything. If this keeps the ports on whenever the generator kicks on, that would be awesome if it does. And we'll see if the charging input increased. So we'll wait for this update and try again. 99, come on, one more percent. And come on, I think it's getting right. There it goes, 100%. So it'll restart and we'll be ready to try again. All right, we're updated. Let's turn it on and see if the AC outlets stay on now when it kicks on. Right now we're getting 240 volts from there. It just kicked on. Oh, I think it stayed on. So the output did stay on. These outlets went off like normal, but the AC stayed on the 240 volt L1430R output. So awesome. Now it will stay on, will not shut off, does not require you to manually activate that after your generator starts up. Let's see if this other port's getting power. Yep, 120 volts, no problem. Let's go ahead and test this again. Let's shut the power off. And it maintained 120 volts. So again, what I'm doing here is this is simulating a gas generator putting power into the F3800 Plus. And we're trying to see if the outlets now stay on with this new update whenever you turn your gas generator on. Now, like I said, not a gas generator, just simulating it, turning it on. Let's see if the 120 volts goes out. Just kicked on. And 120 volts stayed on, no problem. Perfect. This is what I like to see. An easy update, fixed it, and now the outputs stay on. So glad that update came out before I published this video, because that's a really big update. Now, as soon as your generator starts up, the two outputs from the L1430R and the TT30R output will remain active. Thanks for the update, Anker. All right, so now I have it charging. I have 3,282 watts coming in and 3,300 watts coming out. And in the app, I do have it set for 6,000 watts of running wattage, and max recharge only allows me to take it up to 4,300 watts for some reason. So I'm not sure why I can't take it to 6,000 watts, because it did say that you could charge up to 6,000 watts with expansion batteries. Right here it says achieve higher outputs with expansion batteries, so I'm not sure if you can only go up to 4,300 watts with one expansion battery connected, and then you'd be able to go higher if you had more connected, possibly, or maybe possibly it'll allow you to change that to a higher level in the future with a future update. But as of now, with one expansion battery connected, I'm able to get 3,287 watts currently into the unit, and the max I'm able to set it to is 4,300 watts. So again, not sure why I can't set that to 6,000, but either way I'm getting, oh wait, there, it's bumping up to 4,200 watts now. Well, for a split second it did. Still only getting 25, 27, so bumped up slightly there. Maybe because my charge level of my battery is not really that low. Let's see what my battery's at. My battery is at 85%, and the Solix F3800 Plus is at 74%. So that could possibly be why. Maybe it has to be at a lower charge rate for it to accept the higher input. But either way, this thing would be charged in 0.6 hours. So that's pretty amazing. It says 36 minutes to fully charged. That's insanely fast. Now let's plug the solar back in and see if we can get that to go up higher than the 2,768 watts that it's at right now. And with both solars plugged in, it's still maintaining around 2,700 watts, but I only have 2,300 watts coming from the other Anker that's simulating the gas generator. So that is helping out, helping reduce the power of this one, but I still haven't seen 6,000 watts of recharging. Like I said, maybe I need to have more expansion batteries connected, or maybe I need to have the charge rate turned down. If I'm able to get up to 6,000 watts in the future, I'll post it down below in the comments and in the description to let you guys know. Or if an update changes this, I'll also let you know. All right, now let's try it with load. Right now I'm using 624 watts from that blow dryer, pure sine wave, looks good. Gonna go ahead and kick the generator on, simulating the 240 volt generator. And it just kicked on, you can hear it, looks good. 1,800 watts coming from this one, because I have the blow dryer on. Let's shut this one off now. And you do hear a slight, maybe a slight delay in that, but it stays running, no problem. So working pretty good. All right, so that update did not allow me to increase the charge rate higher than 4,300 watts with one expansion battery connected. Now let's get into the testing with the 120 volt generator. And there's a lot you're gonna wanna see here, because there's a difference in which way it's wired, and there wasn't much in the manual to explain that. So if you wanna learn about that, please stick around. Okay, so now you see that 240 volts with this generator adapter works pretty well. It has pass-through charging, so it will pull power from your gas generator, and you could set the charge limit on this to use as little wattage or whatever wattage you want up to the max output of the generator to help recharge the unit. I hope that wasn't confusing, and if it was, please put a comment down below. Let me know. I'll try to respond and answer any questions that you guys may have, and please leave a comment down below as well, because it really helps my channel. It helps YouTube recommend my videos, and I want as many people seeing this video as I can, so please leave a comment down below, and consider subscribing if you like this content also. So now we're going to try the 120 volt generator. Now, in the manual, it does not say anything about a bridged adapter, but it does tell you if you're using 120 volts that you need a TT30R to L1430R adapter. But my generator does not have TT30 output, so I have the adapter that I always use with my gas generator. If this was what I used to use on my home before I got the Anker Solix. And what this does, it's a bridged adapter, and it takes one hot lead and basically powers both hots on the 240 volt side of the receptacle. On a non-bridged adapter, only one hot is powered. So what happens is when I would plug this into my home, if this wasn't a bridged adapter, only half of my breaker panel would have power. So I got this bridged adapter. It splits the power, and then both legs in your panel are powered with 120 volts. However, it is not 240 volts, so you have to be very cautious doing this, and you have to shut off all your 240 volt breakers when using a bridged adapter like this, going from 120 volts to a 240 volt plug. So keep that in mind. If you're using a 120 volt generator and you're powering your home through the TT30 output port and have another bridged adapter like this to power both legs, make sure you shut off all your 240 volt appliances, because you could damage them. Okay, so now back to me asking them about being able to use a bridged adapter. I reached out to them and they said, yes, you can. Now I tried this in the house with the Anker and it didn't work, but let's try it out here with the gas generator and see if it works. Open the door up a little bit, get the fumes out. Now this might get a little bit noisy because of this generator. And I run ethanol-free fuel in here, guys. Really helps out. There's an app called Pure Gas or something. If you watch my video from a long time ago with the snowblower, I mentioned and talked about ethanol-free fuel, but that's what I run in here so that it doesn't get gummed up. All right, so the gas generator is running. I have it plugged in. Let's make sure these are on. Flip the breaker on. I have power going to my adapter here. You can see the blue light in there. However, this does not kick on. It does not start charging the unit with a bridged adapter. Put that generator on eco mode. Boy, that thing's noisy compared to one of these. For like I said, as of now, this does not work with a bridged adapter. Hopefully in the future, they can provide an update to allow it to sense the 120 volts to both legs and allow this to work, because it's really hard to figure out which adapters on Amazon are bridged and non-bridged. A lot of times you got to read the comments. If I find a non-bridged adapter to work with this, I'll put it down below in the description. Now what we're going to do is we're going to plug this in. This is my original adapter that I made. This is also was a bridged adapter, but I unwired one of the hots. So now I only have power currently going to this prong here, which is the Y prong. This is the X, this is the Y, and then the green wire goes to this, white wire goes to this. And I'm no professional, guys, so if you make one of these, do all this at your own risk. Just want to mention that. I am not a professional electrician, but this is what works for me. So do this at your own risk. So let's try this. This is going to simulate a non-bridged adapter with the power going to the Y side of the L1430R adapter. Okay, now I have power on the generator input, and it is charging right now at 24, well now it's pumping up to 189 watts. So being a non-bridged adapter, it is working with the power going to the Y side. However, there's something I want to show you. Okay, what I want to show you is whenever you're powered with that generator input adapter and power is only going to the Y side, it does recharge. However, you don't have any pass-through charging, so you can't use any of the outputs on the Anker Solix F3800 Plus when it's wired this way. You see I have basically no 120 volt output from the TT30R, and you don't have any output from the small receptacles on the side there, even though that switch is on and the outputs are on. I'll turn it off here. You can hear it click, and it basically 1.2 volts, but it is charging at 200 watts. And that's all I have it set to in the app, to charge at 200 watts for now. Let me shut this off for a second. Ooh, that's a little noisy, even though this is an inverter generator. And I'm not sure about using a non-inverter generator. Typically, I don't use them because the power is not very clean, and I only use inverter generators when doing this. So not sure if a regular generator would damage this, or if they have something built in to where it's fine. Like I said, I don't have one to try because I never use a standard generator, but let me know if you get one, if you try it with a regular generator, if it works fine. Let me know. All right, so now we're gonna rewire this adapter here, and we're gonna run the hot to the X side instead of the Y, and see how that works. And then I'll take the power out of the other side so that we power the opposite leg of this receptacle here. Okay, so now the X side is getting power instead of the Y side, so let's try this. It's charging back at the right around 200 watts. Now I'm gonna go ahead and turn the outlets back on and see if they work when it's wired that way. And yes, they do. So you do have power from your TT30R when charging from a gas generator, 120 volt one. However, you do not have any power from the L1430R when charging from a 120 volt gas generator, or any of the outputs on the side here. Only this one. So up to 25 amps, or whatever your generator can handle, up into 25 amps. So now let's crank up the charging power on the Anker here in the app and see what we can get this thing to charge at, and see if we can get it to charge up to the 3,000 watts that's stated in the manual. All right, so now I'm in the app. You can see the generator input is 120 volts, 195 watts. We're gonna go into there. Right now I have the running wattage set to 800. This is a 3,000 watt generator, and whatever your running wattage is set at, that's all it's gonna allow you to change the charge rate to. So running watts is 800, it's only gonna allow you to put up to 800 watts of charging so that you don't overload your generator. So let's hit save on there. This thing should bump up to 800 watts. There it goes. Now we're gonna go ahead and turn it up a little bit more. We're gonna turn the running wattage up to, let's say 3,000, which is about what the max this generator is good for. And I do have it set on eco mode. That's why you heard the throttle ramp up. And it's probably gonna get a lot louder as soon as I ramp this up. Now we're gonna set this to 3,000 watts and see what happens. See if it can maintain 3,000 watts. It might actually kick that on that breaker, because I don't know if that's max watt or running watts, but let's hit save and see if this thing ramps up to 3,000 watts. There we go, 3,000 watts. Awesome. So now that's 3,000 watts of input. However, like I said, I do want you to keep in mind, oh, it's ramping down now. It's still working though. Maybe it sensed something. It did say something in the manual about the charge rate will vary depending on your generator output and the voltage. Let me turn it off eco mode. There we go. Let's see what happens now. So it looks like the max I can get into it right now at 79% charge is 1,990 watts with the generator that I currently have, which is still pretty good. But one thing to keep in mind now, if you turn your outlets on and you start running power from that TT30R output port, it's going to pull more power from your generator and you can't overload it. So that's when you're going to want to bump down the recharge power in your app so that your Anker charges at a slower rate, and then you can pull more power from your generator for the things you're powering from this. All right, I bumped it back down to 200 watts. I did not put this gas generator back on eco mode, but let me bump it back up now and see if it'll go back to 3,000 watts. Let's see what happens here. You can hear the load on the gas generator. And just over 2,000 watts. So even though I did see 3,000 watts, it may have started limiting the input because this is at 80%. So if it had a lower rate charge, maybe it would charge a little quicker. Okay, now we're gonna try this little Sportsman inverter generator. It's 1,000 max watts, 800 running watts. All right, got that plugged in. And that didn't work. Maybe because I had that set on eco mode. Actually, let's change the running watts down to 800. Minimum's 200. Let's see if this will work. What the heck's going on here? Oh, actually, I still have the choke on. All right, let's try this again. I actually forgot to take the choke off last time. So let's take it off of eco mode, plug it in here, and see what happens. Light turned red, back to white. Pulling a load on the generator, 226 watts, 200 watts. And it is white, which means it should be charging good. So charging at 200 watts, and you can hear that ramped up. So awesome that you could still charge with the generator input port from a really small generator like that. Now let's bump that up to about 600 watts and see if that generator can handle it. All right, max recharge watts. Let's go to, let's say 500. Hit save, and you can really hear the load on the generator now. But it is charging it at 500 watts. About 499, close enough. And that's probably all I would want to push out of that small generator is about 500 watts, even though it's rated for 800. Let's see here, let's bump it up a little bit more. 600 watts. And no problem, 600 watts. And I do have this connected down with an adapter to go into that 120 volt socket there. Nice. Let's try to max 800 watts that the generator is recommended for running watts. See what happens. See if we blow an overload. Doesn't sound good. Nope, overload. Let's lower that back down. There we go, lowered it back down. It was showing an overload on the gas generator. So maybe that thing won't output 800 watts like it says. It says it's supposed to, 800 running watts, but maybe it won't put out that much. All right, let's try 700 watts. It'll do 700 watts, but it will not do 800 watts. Pump it back down to 200. Let's put it on eco mode now. Let it idle down there, and sitting there idling really nice now, and charging at 200 watts. Now, just out of curiosity, while I have this out in the garage, let's see if the Anker will power this 12 volt diesel parking heater. This is just something I've been messing around with lately, and I'm going to be trying it in a hot tent here soon. Can't wait to test it out. If you've seen my reel where I plumbed that thing into my living room and heated my living room to 67 degrees, that was pretty cool. But anyway, I've tried this with a bunch of different power stations, and not many power stations can power this unit, so I'm not expecting this to, because this is rated for 10 amps and this thing pulls up to 15 amps, but let's try it anyway. Now, to be clear, I tried this with a bunch of different power stations, and not many power stations will run this. This is really meant to be hooked up to a 12 volt battery, but let's try it. 164 watts of output. What? I don't think that's right. $143. That's crazy. That's when the glow plug kicks in. It uses a ton of power. Let's see what the exhaust is doing here. I don't think it's kicked on yet. The fuel just kicked on. You can hear it tapping. 146 watts. That's crazy. Usually these only output up to like 120 watts. Showing 11 volts on the heater. Still 146 watts of output there on the DC output port. That's amazing. And it will drop really low once the heater starts and starts working. It should drop to around 20 watts or so. But yeah, it kicked on, it's working. Powering the heater, no problem. I'll let it go for a few minutes just to make sure it works good. But usually when it first starts up, that's when you usually have the problem, whenever it pulls too many watts. And like I said, I've tried a handful of different solar generators, and 2 that I have will power this unit. And now I know the Anker will. But with this heater here, you do get a 13 volt 12 amp charger that you can plug into AC to power it. So essentially I can run that with any solar generator, but I have to have the AC outlet ports on some of the other ones, which is a little bit less efficient than running directly from the DC output port. But it ramped up there and working really well. And now it dropped to around 29 watts or so. That's awesome that that DC output port is able to power this heater.